G'day and welcome to the Investor Motivation Podcast. My name's Robert Gowdy and I've got...
Amy Lehman here again, as usual.
G'day Amy, how are you?
Good, how are you going, Rob?
Good. What are we chatting about today?
Today we're going to cover a scenario of a couple that are wanting to retire with $650,000 in financial assets, so that might be cash, superannuation.
Fantastic. The other thing that makes it a bit strange, we're going live on TikTok at the same time.
Yes, we are. So
aren't we tech savvy?
Yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, so welcome to everyone that is on TikTok. As I said, we're going to do, once we finish the recording, we're going to do Q&A afterwards for those if anyone's got any questions. Acknowledgement of land. Thanks, Amy.
Yeah. On behalf of the Investor Motivation Podcast, we'd like to pay our respects to the traditional owners of the land on which we do record this podcast, and pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging.
Awesome. Now, $650,000 is a lot of money.
It is a lot of money.
Yep, and it takes for many people, it takes a lifetime to accumulate that amount.
It does.
Probably one thing that has annoyed me over the years that the industry says you need millions of dollars to retire.
Yeah.
Is that the case?
Definitely not. I still remember there was a client that we had and I got a superannuation statement from his super provider, and it had on the top of it, if you want to retire at 65 years old as a single male, you must have about $600,000 it was.
Right.
So we're going to go a scenario of a couple with $600,000 and we'll see, how right or how wrong or there's a lot of pressure put on people to build up as much wealth as possible to live off in retirement. Some people get near this mark, some people make more, some people make a lot less, but there's so many strategies out there that you can put in place to make sure it's a very full, fulfilling retirement all the way out to your life expectancy, which, could be 30 plus years for people retiring at 60.
Yep. We do our projections out to age 93 generally. So someone within a couple, there's a very high percentage that someone will make it to there, but some of the key factors, obviously, how much you spend has a huge impact. Do you want to leave capital? Most people are sort of past that having to leave money for their children. They say, well, I've worked hard. It's the spend the kids' inheritance, the ski strategy. So they're not generally that worried about if we're enjoying it and we're spending it. That's great. Yeah,
especially these people that have worked really hard to build up to this, around 650 mark. When people, are into the millions, then it might be more of a goal to leave an inheritance and leave, funds for the kids. But otherwise, you've earned the money and you spend it and have fun yourself.
Yep, very good. Now, I suppose, how would we structure it from a tax point of view? What would we do for someone that walks in here with 650 in investable assets? What is some of the, I suppose, the tax side of it? How would we structure things?
Yep, so superannuation is always going to be the number one tax vehicle for anybody. Even if you're accumulating, it's 15% rather than, tax in your own individual name, which is normally for most people that 34%.
Yep.
So it's always going to be the number one tax environment.
Great. So if it looks like you're going to pay tax outside of superannuation, then let's get it inside super.
Yep, and especially appealing for those approaching retirement, because as soon as you are retired and you're flicked into pension phase, it goes from that 15% superannuation and accumulation all the way down to 0%.
Great. So once you're 60, you start to receive a pension from your superannuation, either lump sum or monthly payments or weekly or fortnightly. It's tax-free out, and it's also tax-free within the fund.
Yes.
All the way up to $1.9 million for people each. So as a couple, so we're not talking about a couple with 1.9, but you can have $3.8 million completely tax-free. So it's a very generous system. So super is going to be core in what we're doing here.
Yes, and I probably should note that the government did introduce the, super tax on balances above $3 million each. So if you do surpass $3 million in super, you're very, very lucky and well done, but you will be taxed at 30% rather than 15% on anything above $3 million.
Yep.
But that 30% is still probably better than it being in your individual name and you've got millions. So.
Yes, absolutely. So, superannuation would be key. I think having good cash reserves at home. So you wouldn't put it all, 650 all into superannuation. With a couple, you've definitely got the contribution limits to do so.
Yes.
But having a good cash reserve of, say, 50,000 or whatever helps people sleep at night is pretty important.
Yeah, it's always, the best. Superannuation is the best tax vehicle, but $50,000, if that's going to help you sleep at night and you've got that to fall back on, even though you do have full access to your super when you're retired, having that ready cash in the bank is always going to be that, safety net for everybody.
Yeah. Now, $600,000 outside of super, earning 5% is probably not going to cause a tax problem when we've got a couple and you're splitting that income between two people. The other thing we need to be mindful of, at some stage someone will pass away. So we need to think about, and this is why superannuation, there may not be much tax payable for a couple, but when someone passes away and all that income goes to one person, we've got to be mindful of that. So that often affects, the recommendations that we provide as well.
Yeah.
And with a lot of my calculations I do for clients, I know that a couple that live off, say, 55, 60 grand per year will live very comfortably with this amount of money. It's when someone passes away, one of the couple pass away in their 80s, it's when everything changes. Can you explain that, Amy, in broad terms?
Well, when two people live together under one roof, they generally have a lot of shared expenses. And then when one person passes away, it doesn't really affect the cost of electricity and the cost of actually running a home. So you might think two people living off about $55,000 is comfortable, but if one was to pass and that is now a single, it might still be around the $50,000 mark.
Yeah.
The expenses don't reduce dramatically with that one person.
But what does reduce is the assets test for Centrelink and also the payment rate for Centrelink. So that has a huge impact. And just by example, and the example we've got here is a couple living at home. Homeowners, they can have up to $667,500 before they're cut off for pension. For a couple, that's $1,003,000. So it's a harsher income test. In addition to that, as a couple getting a full pension, it's about 43 grand per year. As an individual, it's 28.5. So it hurts you at a number of different levels.
It does hurt a lot. Halved income, but not halved expenses.
Correct. So I see the people that do struggle in Australia are single pensioners that are trying to run a house, trying to run a car. They're the ones that struggle. Trying to do it off 28.5 grand is near impossible. There is no room for much at all.
No.
So I would need, with my calculations, when I'm working with a client like this, I want to make sure there's at least a couple of $100 grand left over when say mid-80s comes
when
around.
that one person does pass away, to make sure that couple $100 grand lasts that single person till they're 93 plus.
Can get them through for that last, let's call it 10 years. So at 200 grand, 10 years left, without including any investment return, that's 20 grand in addition to the 28.5. And they can then get by. So I suppose obviously Centrelink's a big component. That's what makes it, people that can retire on this, Centrelink really helps. It's a generous system.
We're very lucky to live in Australia and have Centrelink as a backstop for all of us.
So with the assets test, when does the assets test kick in that it starts to reduce for a couple on age pension before they start to get cut out? So it's about $451,000. So a couple excluding their home, $451,500. Anything above that, every $1,000 above that, your pension reduced by $3 per fortnight.
So if you've got less than $450,000 in assessable assets in Australia and you're a couple, you will get the full age pension, which is brilliant.
So pretty generous. So for this scenario, what we've done is we've included that there's 650 of investment assets and there's 30 grand of car and contents and stuff.
Which is also accessible for Centrelink. So
correct. The only real big asset that's excluded is your primary residence. That is excluded for the assets test because, as we know, our homes don't bring in any income. So for these guys, the pension, how much would that be?
So based on them having $680,000 of accessible assets, their pension would be about $25,000 a year from Centrelink. And then we'd have to supplement whatever their expenses might be with money from, superannuation or cash or...
Great. And all right, so let's go down the strategy path. What can we do, Amy?
Yeah, perfect. So there are a few assets or products that you can purchase that do reduce the assets test from Centrelink's point of view. And the number one probably is a funeral bond. That is something that you can purchase, and up to $15,000 in a funeral bond is exempt from Centrelink completely.
Right. So pretty negative retirement asset. Great.
Yeah.
So you've paid for your funeral and a party for everyone else to drink.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's not something we'd firstly recommend, but it's just something that gives you the best benefits Centrelink wise.
Yeah. So $30,000, and obviously that adds a fair bit of value. Very negative, a negative one, but yeah, it's got to be paid for at some stage, but there's some Centrelink benefit in doing so.
Yeah, and to clarify for everyone that doesn't know what a funeral bond is, it is essentially putting away money to pay for your funeral when you're gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There we go. So let's say we did that for our case study here.
Yep,
We're 30 grand is put aside.
Yep.
What else can we do, Amy?
We can purchase an annuity, so a lifetime annuity, which is, again, so if we were to invest, for example, $200,000 into an annuity, it would provide income payments monthly for the remainder of this couple's lifetime.
Right. And if one dies, the residual goes to the partner, and they continue to receive payments. And when the last one passes away, there's nothing left. But the incentive for people to use these products, and I used to use them in the 2000s, where if you put money into these, the 200,000 that you mentioned, that whole $200,000 was exempt from Centrelink.
The whole amount, that's massive.
The whole amount. So it was a great strategy. Now it's 40%.
Yes.
But there's more flexibility. Previously, you could not touch these things. Once it was in, you couldn't get the money out.
Yeah.
Now you can actually withdraw money.
Yeah, it's generally about a 15-year period where there will be some sort of withdrawal value if you had to withdraw the money.
And up to a 10-year guaranteed period where if you pass away, you'll get the bulk of your money that you put in, you'll get that back, plus you receive the pensions along the way.
Yeah.
So they're actually not as scary as they used to be back in the day.
But the benefit is also not, if it used to be 100% of the value exempt, it's now only 40% exempt and 60% accessible. So
Amy, if we took out a couple of funeral bonds, $15,000 each, 200 grand into annuity, and annuities are very much fixed. You can have ones that are market linked, but we like to make up the conservative part of the portfolio with these products.
Yes.
I've never heard, these are fixed contracts. I've never heard a client complain about an annuity because the money just keeps rolling in.
Yeah, you've got, cash in the bank, which is your peace of mind, but this constant guaranteed income coming through is massive peace of mind for retirees.
Yes, we've no links to the market, but this day and age, you can get them. They do have, market links.
Yeah, and like CPI linked. So if inflation's going up at 7%, your income coming through that income stream will also go up 7%. So you're not, feeling that pinch as much in that area.
Absolutely. So we've just, 200 grand annuity means there's $80,000 that's exempt that would have been counted. And we've also done 30 grand into a funeral bond. Yeah,
so that's $110,000 that would formerly be accessible by Centrelink that no longer is.
Yep. So what effect would that have?
We did the math, so that would then bump the income from Centrelink up to $33,700. Formerly, that was the $25,000.
Right. So it's
$8,000 improvement just by doing those, 3 products.
Yep.
Massive.
Yeah, so that...
Year on year.
Yeah, there's an old strategy, or I suppose the mindset was, we'll spend the government's money first before your own.
Yeah.
People seem to like that.
Why not?
So that has, for every 10 grand that you can put aside and put into space where it's not counted, and of course, renovations on a house can be done.
Yes.
It's not something that I would recommend unless you need it done. I wouldn't do it deliberately, upgrade something in your home that doesn't need doing, because I want my clients to have, the financial assets, the cash, the investments, because it's the income that dictates the fund.
Yeah, definitely.
You could live in a $4 million house. It would be fully exempt, and you could be on a full pension of 43 grand.
Yeah.
You're going to struggle to pay your rates on an expensive home. Now, that's not a scenario that happens, but I have heard some advice in the past saying, yes, put more, do renovations.
Yeah.
And for me, I prefer to have extra dollars
Yeah.
to take the kids out, to go and have coffees, to go and have meals with friends and the fun stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think throughout the whole entire accumulation phase of your life, when you are working really hard, and it's always kind of the same through then to try and reduce the income to pay less tax, but having money is a great problem to have, and there are other ways to reduce tax throughout that accumulation phase.
Yeah.
And then in retirement, having that income and that asset is another great thing, even though it may reduce your pension slightly. Having those financial assets are always going to be a positive.
Yep, it gives you the options to do more stuff, in my view.
Yeah, definitely. And that's financial freedom that everyone's always chasing.
Absolutely. Now, what happens if, for whatever reason, we use all our money and we get to, mid-80s and you're still active, you're still doing stuff, still having fun? What happens then, Amy? Like, where do we go?
Yeah, so again, we're in Australia and the government are very, very, very generous to us, even though we do always want to, minimise the amount of tax we pay to them and maximise the amount of income we can receive in retirement. We've always got brilliant backstops that they give us, one of them being is the Home Equity Access Scheme. So if you do somehow run out of all of your money throughout retirement, mid-80s, you've got a lot of life to live still, they've actually got a scheme where you can essentially loan a portion of the value of your main residence, so your home, and they'll boost up the pension payments that they give you on a fortnightly basis.
Right. So for maximum rate pensions, they can get an extra 50% on top of their fortnightly payment.
Awesome.
So it's pretty generous. So an extra 50% over a year goes from 43, and that's, so it's an extra 21,500 per year that you get back up to over $60,000.
And that loan rate that you might be loaning the house value to them is also really, really competitive. I think it's only just higher than inflation.
Yeah.
So much cheaper than if you were to loan, your home to a bank and then want cash.
Yeah. So safety net is the age pension. Safety net is if you own your home, you can actually use that to just top things up for those last few years. So I think it's absolute ripper. Yeah.
And I guess the only thing to think about one of the many things to think about, but because that is a home loan, you're loaning a value of your home. When you do pass away, it will be left to the estate to then pay that back, which would be funded from the sale of the house.
Yep.
So it's just, again, being okay with understanding you've worked a whole entire lifetime to build up your assets and have fun in retirement, that you don't need to leave an inheritance to your children. They're going to be okay. They're also working super hard and they're living their life as well.
Yep. Now, I think that the less exciting part of this is the estate planning. Now, within superannuation, there's taxable and tax-free components. Between, all the way up to age 74, we can help reduce, these taxable components, because if these taxable components are paid to your children who are non-financially dependent, there's 17% tax that's going to be applied to that. Yeah. So we can do recontribution strategies all the way up to age 74 without meeting the work test, where money's out of super and then back in.
Yeah, and it's kind of like cleaning the dirty money, we like to call it. Not in a Ozark kind of way, but it is drawing out that money that's got that taxable component, which is the dirty component, and putting it back in tax-free, which makes it completely clean. If you were to pass away, your adult children would receive that money 100%
from super.
Yeah, from super, and not have to pay 17% tax.
Yeah, it's not a guarantee. So husband and wife, money goes to each other completely tax-free. That is a non-issue. It's when someone's left and there's still these taxable components. Where we didn't have the ability to do recontribution strategy and someone's got old and there's still taxable component and their partner has passed away, we withdraw it out to make sure that liability is no longer there.
Gone. Yeah.
So that's part of the estate planning. The other part to estate planning, which is we'll put everyone to sleep, is get your will done, powers of attorney, medical, financial, and also advanced care directives.
Yeah, an advanced care directive is actually really, really worthwhile doing if, it's essentially giving somebody direction on what you would want them to do if you couldn't speak for yourself in a situation. Yeah. And I've already done it with my partner. I've made him sit down and do it. It's quite a lengthy process. My Values is a really great website run from Barwon Health, non-for-profit. It just runs you through all these different scenarios and you rank, you know, where you sit in that scenario.
Yeah. And it's far more than the old joke that we have, oh yeah, if I'm in a coma, just pull the plug. There's so many other scenarios around pain, about being independent, all these
nuanced.
Communication. There's so many things to consider that, and this website, which is not for profit, My Values, highly recommended. You go and check that out.
Put that on the to-do list.
Fantastic. Very good. All right. Thank you, Amy. Thanks for everyone listening. Just a couple of shout outs. We now have over 600 videos on our YouTube channel.
Yep.
We've both got our TikTok accounts, which you check out. The Wealth Diaries.
The Wealth Diaries on Instagram as well.
Yep, and I'm predominantly on
TikTok.
TikTok personally as a financial advisor.
Yep.
But as I said, there is a huge amount of educational material. Seek that out. If you've got anything that you would like to know about, any topics, we are here to answer it. We enjoy it. It improves our tech skills because we're always researching to make sure we're ready for these chats.
Yep.
So thank you for listening. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
Cheers.
All right, we'll end the
Bye.
podcast. Bye.